Module 2, Lesson 12, we move into working with long division. We're going to start with estimation though. So in this lesson, you will understand how estimation is connected to place value, and you will use your understanding of estimation and place value in order to determine the standard algorithm for division. Estimation is also useful for you to determine whether your answer to your long division makes sense or not, or if it's close. So first of all, let's review our vocabulary for division. So if we have this equation, 150 divided by 5, it equals 30. Now, the dividend is our number that's going to be divided, or the number that needs to be broken into equal pieces. And it's divided by 5. 5 is my divisor. So your divisor is whatever number you're breaking it into, or the number of groups you need to break your dividend into. And our answer is our quotient. So if I broke 150 into 5 groups, I would have 30 in each group. Or if I took 150 and made groups of 5, it'd be 30 groups. This is another way that we see division. So 150 divided by 5, 150 goes inside the bracket. So our dividend is on the inside. What we're dividing by goes on the outside. That's our divisor. And our answer would be the quotient. Now, these words are important for you to understand because they're going to be using them in the lessons. And so when I say divisor or dividend or quotient, I need you to understand which number I'm referring to. So here are the definitions for each of them that you will need to write down. So the dividend is the quantity being divided by another number. Your divisor is the quantity to be divided by, or the number of equal groups you should make with the dividend. And your quotient is the answer to your division problem. Now, you did estimation in 3rd grade and then have continued it for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and now we're going to also use it in 6th. And just a quick saying to help you remember what to do. So for estimation, 5 or more, raise the score. So if it's 5 or more, your number will go up. 4 or less, let it rest. So if it's a 4 or lower, we're going to leave our number how it is. So lesson 12 in your book is on S50, or it's lesson 12, 6-2 at the top. Make sure it says classwork discussion, divide 150 by 30. Now, we did this in your notes. I showed you what the dividend, divisor, and quotient are. So dividing 150 by 30, that means that that's my dividend. That's my divisor, which means it's 150 divided by 30, which is the same as writing it like that. Now, before we go into all of that, I want you to show how estimation is helpful. So we don't really need to estimate here because they already have the zeros. Our number here, 15 and 3, those are pretty easy to divide. So 150 divided by 30 is the same way as saying 15 tens divided by 3 tens. And I'm able to say that because my 15 ends here in the tens place and my 3 is in the tens place. So that's 15 tens divided by 3 tens. So that's the same as saying 15 divided by 3. And we all know our multiples up through 12. And so 15 divided by 3 is an easy answer. We can say that's 5. So if I have 150 divided by 30, that's 5. 30 times 5 is 150, so I'd subtract 150. You get your 0. So what this shows you is that if we can estimate having our numbers based off of whatever place value we use, we can knock out all the zeros at the end and just use the quantities that have numbers other than 0 in them, and then we're able to estimate what the answer to the division problem would be. So here's your first example. You're going to have to write it down. So we have 26,897 divided by 38. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start with my divisor because this is the one that I'm going to be dividing by. This will help me know what place value to round that to. So my 38, this is a 5 or more, so this can be rounded up to a 40. So now, I'm working with 4 tens. So I want to go up here. I'm going to go to my first number. It's a 2. That's not a multiple of 4, so I can't use that. So I'm going to use my first two numbers. It's a 26. So I'm going to think of my 4, and I'm going to skip count to figure out what of the multiples of 4 is 26 closest to. So that'd be 4, 8, 12, 16, and if you need to write it out, go ahead and write it out over here. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. I'm going to go ahead and stop because 24 and 28, that's where 26 falls in, right here. So I'm going to say, okay, is it closer to 24 or 28? So this is a 26 and an 8. This 8 suggests that I should round up, and so I'm going to go up to 28. Now, what I need you to know is that you could also go down to 24. It's estimating. And so as long as you're rounding to a multiple of 4, it's fine. So we're going to go to 28,000. And now what this is I have 4 tens. And then how many tens do I have here? I have 2,800 tens. And what that is doing is I'm basically knocking off the ones place. And when I knock off that ones place, that's how I get what my numbers are. Okay, so those tens you don't need. So this is 2,800 divided by 4. So when I put that into this, I have 2,800 divided by 4. Start with my 2. 2 can't be divided by 4, so I go to both. I'm going to draw my line to make sure my answers are lined up. 28 divided by 4 is 7. I'm going to subtract 28. I get 0, bring down my 0. That's my 0 goes there. Keeping my numbers in line. And then that's my 0 there. And so then my answer, my estimated answer is 700. Now, what I would like you to do for each one, and it will ask you to do this, is we're going to use, so this is my estimation. So I'm going to put EST. So I know that's my estimation. And now I'm going to actually use the calculator to solve it and see how close my estimation is to the actual answer. So 26,897 divided by 38. Here, I'll put this up here so you can see it. 26,897 divided by 38 is a 707.815789. We're only going to go to the hundreds place, so it's a 1. So I need to look at what's in the thousands place so I know my hundreds place is correct. And this is a 5. 5 or more raise the score, so it would become a 2. And so your answer would be a 707.82. Now, if you look, that's about almost 8, a difference of 8, which isn't that much. And so you're able to know, okay, that makes sense then. If this is 707, that's close to 700. My math is probably correct. Now, let's go on to the exercises. I'm going to do exercises 1 and 2 with you. And then you will be doing 3 and 5, and I will check those. So your first 2 steps, you're going to round, and then you're going to use the calculator to compare them. That's all. Now, it will only work, or I'll only accept answers where you have all of the steps that I showed above. So we're going to look at our rounding. So I have an 11. This 1 means I'm going to round down. So I'm going to rewrite my equation. I almost rounded too early. Now, this 1 means this is going to become a 10. So the 1 in the ones place means that ones place is going to become a 0. Now I'm dividing. So this is 1 tens. I'm going to look over here and see what I have, and this is 2,970. So I'm going to start with my first number, 2. I can't divide 2 by 10, so I'm going to go to 29. Well, 29 is almost 30. 30 can be divided by 10, so I'm going to round this, and again, I'm just taking the first 2 numbers here. And this number here is in the hundreds place. So I don't have to round both by the same place value. I just want to look at where the place value is, so then I can round correctly. And so this is a 29. There's a 7 next to it in the tens place. So that 7 is going to make this go up. And so this will be a 30 hundreds or 3,000 divided by 10. Now, our zeros cancel out, or these tens. They're the zeros in the ones place. If I had a 0 in the tens place, they would be canceled out as well. But now this is just a 300 divided by 1, which is 300. You didn't even need the calculator for that. So my estimation is 300. So let's put our EST next to it so we know that this is our estimation. Now, if I go to my calculator, all I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the equation. So 2,970 divided by 11. I pull out the calculator, and you have 2,970 divided by 11 is 270. And again, if I compare my estimation, 300 to 270, those are pretty close. They're only 30 apart. This answer makes sense. My estimation makes sense. Now, example 2. You have 4,752 divided by 12. Well, my 12 here, this is a 2, which means it would round down. So it's going to go down to 10. And then I'm going to go over here. And I have a 4. 4 can't be divided by 10, so I'm going to go over here to the hundreds place, and I have 47. So that's 47 hundredths. Well, I'm just going to think about this 47, and I'm going to see that this is a 7. So my 7 is going to make my 4 round up, which would become a 50. But I want to also make sure that it is a factor of that number, and 50 is a factor of 10. So this 50 becomes 50 hundredths, or 5,000 divided by 10. The zeros cancel out, so that's 500 tens, and this is 1 10, so our tens can go away. Really, they factor out. That's what's happening. You're dividing by 10 for both of them. And then I have a 500 divided by 1, which gives me an answer of 500. So again, I just want to reiterate, when I mark these out, they don't just disappear. I'm actually dividing both numbers by 10. So what this would actually look like is you would have a 5,000 divided by 10. And what I'm doing is saying, okay, I'm going to divide this by 10 and divide this by 10 to get an equivalent fraction. And this would be a 500 over 1. So that is an easier thing to do in your head and an easier problem to do in your head. All I'm doing right here, we're making an equivalent fraction. Now, it's written linearly, so you can't, or in a line, and so you can't really see that, but that's what's happening. We're just creating an equivalent fraction because remember, fractions are division, so that you're able to estimate easier without having to do additional math. Now, we're going to use a calculator to check. So we're going to take the equation, we're going to rewrite it. So we have a 4,752 divided by 12, and 4,752 divided by 12, you get 666. If I look at this, That's a little bit further than any of the other ones have been, so I'm going to double check it just to make sure. And I put something wrong in, so it's 396, which is still kind of far. And we'll do it a third time. 4752 divided by 12, 396. So that's about 100 off. But I've checked it twice, or actually 3 times, so I know that this is correct. The reason why I believe it's so different is because here we rounded down, but here we rounded up. So you can see this. So I rounded down here, but then I rounded up here. And when you do that, then that means we made them even further apart. So on this one I went down, this one I went up. If you have a line and you go down on one side, but then you go up on the other side, it's a lot further apart than what they were originally. And so if you would like, you're always welcome to round the same on both so that they end up kind of at that same line. But that wouldn't be rounding correctly. And so I'd rather you do this just recognizing that sometimes they're further apart. And if we round differently versus up and down, the further your estimation will be to the actual answer. Now, what I'd like you to do is 3 and 5. So we're going to do 3 and 5. I'd like for you to circle 3 and 5 so that you remember once the video ends that that's what you're doing. If you would like some additional credit, instead of using a calculator to correct your answer, you can use the standard algorithm, which is the long division with decimals. I don't believe you have any decimals in these answers. Actually, you will. If you use your long division, you will have decimals. And if you're able to do that correctly, I may move you on to the next lesson today versus you having to wait until the next day. But that's not a requirement. You don't have to. You're more than welcome just to do the estimation and use a calculator to check it. And that will be enough for the lesson today.